And the thing is that all of those responsibilities, they're not the important things. But if we don't get a handle on on those monkeys, if we don't get a handle on those responsibilities, then we don't focus on what we really need to be focusing on.
Hey everyone, this is Yvette Hampton. Welcome back to the Schoolhouse Rocked podcast. I am back today with my friend Val Harrison, and we are talking about wearing all your hats without wearing out. There are so many things that we do as moms, as teachers, as wives, as daughters, as sisters, as friends, all the things that we have to do. And so if you missed Monday's episode, go back and listen to that. First, I want to thank our sponsor again today, CTC Math, for sponsoring this podcast. They are amazing. If you're looking for a great online math curriculum, go to ctcmath.com. You can try it for free. Do a free trial on there, and I think you will be pleased. ctcmath.com. Val, welcome back.
Thank you. It's been so fun.
I know. I love recording in the studio with people live. It's just so much easier to have a conversation this way because it's like, two people talking for real.
Right.
And so I am encouraged by you. I loved what we talked about on Monday and just figuring out how to help balance all the things that we have going on in our lives and using is not the right word. Well, maybe using. We'll say using. We're going to say using today. Using other people in our lives, whether it's grandparents or friends from church or our own kids, to help relieve some of that, the pressures and responsibilities. Right. That we have.
I call those the monkeys. These things that are on our back that do feel like pressure, and they are responsibilities. And moms tend to feel like we're supposed to wear all the monkeys, but really, we are supposed to manage them. And so just changing that mindset in our head that we're the manager of the monkeys, not the doer of all the monkeys, makes a really big difference. And I came up with that analogy many years ago because I needed some kind of visual image for my kids to think of, that I am taking a responsibility from me and I'm putting it on them because I want them to own it. And there's a lot of value and growth, character development that happens in them as they begin to own things and take the responsibility of those things. So I would say, I'm giving you this monkey. And, someone...
Like you actually say that to them?
Yeah, I actually say that to them. And so I was talking about it at one event one time, and then one of the people that were listening there, they told me later that they made placemats and laminated them of monkeys, and they would just write on the placemat, on this laminated placemat, what each monkey for their child was that day. I thought that was a really good idea.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So the thing is, we feel like all of those things are our responsibility, which weighs us down. It affects our attitude and it affects our focus. And the thing is that all of those responsibilities, they're not the important things. But if we don't get a handle on those monkeys, if we don't get a handle on those responsibilities, then we don't focus on what we really need to be focusing on, which is the hearts of our children, our relationship with God, their relationship with God. So we can focus more on our relationship with God as we set up more systems and get those on autopilot.
So I want to talk about two things. Can you talk about systems? Like, how do you put those systems into place besides making a laminated, which every good homeschool mom has a laminator, right?
Right.
No, I'm just kidding. I actually don't have a laminator. So don't let that be your thing, moms. I do not own a laminator. I used to own a laminator, but I no longer have one, and I have survived without it. So
sure.
But for those who have, you know what's funny? You know what we've actually used sometimes to laminate things is packing tape.
Just That's exactly what I was thinking before you said it was, you could use packing tape.
Yeah, use packing tape. Go buy some packing tape. It works great. It works just like a laminator. Anyway, how do you put systems together? Because I sometimes have a hard time with knowing like how to implement these systems and how to put them together.
Right. Okay. So we can talk about delegating and how to do that effectively. First, I would say make a list of the responsibilities you feel like are weighing on you. And then you got to go through them and identify what is something only I can do. I could not teach anyone to do this.
Right.
It's got to be me. There are some like that. But then with the ones that can be delegated, I ask myself this question, and more applicable when all of my kids were home, now that I'm down to just, I will say one and a half, because I have a senior who is gone all the time working and, but she is still,
Yeah.
at home. But anyway, um, so it's a little bit different now. But when they were all home, I would ask myself, who is the youngest one in the family that I could train regarding this? And it was really important for me to ask that question, because otherwise, what do? What I did before I started asking myself that question, give the responsibility to the oldest,
Mhm.
the most capable, the one who will do it without complaining. They'll
Right.
do it right away. They're the last ones that need to learn how to do these responsibilities.
Yeah.
It's the ones who complain that need way more work,
Right.
right? And so I'll even tell my kids sometimes if they complain about something, I'm like, you know what? Honestly, that's a red flag to me that I need to have you do this more,
More. Oh, yes.
longer, more frequently. So we're going to continue this right now until I see an improved attitude.
Attitude.
And the next time with it, if the attitude's not good, I'm going to have to give you extra, because it is a symptom of,
Right. Because then it's a heart issue. It's not just an
absolutely.
issue of being able to actually do the work.
Yeah. So I would make a list of these responsibilities that weigh on you and really identify
Mm.
what ones can I delegate to them. And then when you're talking about well, okay, let's continue with delegating for a second. A lot of times we feel like I can basically teach them this, and then okay, now they know, and now it's on them. But that's really not how it works. That's not how we work either. It's not like God teaches us something one time and then we got it, and that's a realistic expectation. Instead, training, what I literally did while the kids were growing up, um, as I gave them chores to do, I assigned myself that right now is my chore training time. So we
Mm.
were
Oh,
doing
wow.
chores at the same time,
Yeah.
and I am going to each one and training them different aspects of their chores. So they're seeing me work, but I am working in a different way than they
Mhm.
are. They are doing the chores and I am training the chores. So the first time I teach them a chore, I'm the one doing it and showing them, talking, while I'm doing all this. This is why I do it this way, and this is what excellence looks like on this, and that kind of thing. So I'm doing the talking and the train and the doing
Yeah.
of the chore. Then I'm going to say, like, okay, now let's do it again, and you're going to do it, and I'll talk you through it. So now they're doing it. And then I'm going to have them do it again. And I'm not going to give them information. I'm just going to observe, and then at the end, we'll go over it. So now I have just really thoroughly taught that. That is very different than if I, you know, kind of teach them how to brush their teeth, for example.
Right.
And then I come back and there's a messy sink from having brushed
Right.
their teeth. Whose fault is that? It's my fault that I did not teach them
Mhm.
how to clean up, that important aspect of it.
Yeah.
So partly we need to train more effectively. And then secondly, if we don't follow through well, if we don't follow up well, then there's a guarantee they're not going to keep doing it to a to
Oh,
a good
yeah.
standard. Follow up is essential. And follow up is praising. We praise
Yeah.
what we want
Yep.
repeated. Yeah, and then it's also, of course, if it wasn't with excellence. So anyway, that's how to hand off a chore. Let's talk about systems for a minute. It is easy to feel like, okay, yes, I need to start having more systems, and so we try to implement a whole bunch of systems with our kids at once, and all of us are overwhelmed, and we can't
Right.
remember all the rules that go with this one. What does excellence looks like in this? I don't know. And so, really, when you make that list, identify what is the one thing that is tripping us up the most as a family, that is causing more chaos and less harmony, or that is causing me more stress. What is the one thing? Let's start with that one thing first.
Mhm.
And maybe it's when you get home from co op, all back, shoes go off the feet and they go in this basket right here, and backpacks get unloaded and put in there, the
Mhm.
stuff in them gets put in the right spot, and our lunch bags get taken apart. Maybe that's the one system that we're going to add for the next 2 weeks,
Right.
or whatever. at a pace. We have to add things at a pace that is actually doable.
Yeah. You did mention it, and I really appreciate that you talk about praising them afterwards, because I know with my girls and with us as humans, if we put all, we go through the process of training them on how to do something, then we allow them to do it on their own. And then they do it. And our human nature is that we need that affirmation. We need people to
Yeah.
come back and say, you did a really good job. And our kids really need that
Yes.
when they've just been trained to do something, clean the bathroom, for instance. And then we go in there and even if it's not perfect, but we know it's their perfect for whatever age they are. So whatever appropriate
Right.
perfection it is,
Yeah.
we say, wow, look at how shiny those counters are. Look at how shiny that faucet is, or that toilet, or whatever. I mean, that's when we see our kids light up, and then they maybe don't complain before doing it the next time,
Right.
because they remember, oh, last time mom praised me for it,
Yeah.
instead of just kind of ignoring the fact that they even did it, which, I mean, it's just part of life. It's
Right.
not that we have to be fake about it. But it is really good, especially when they're first learning. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
What we do at IEW is break through the noise of the grammar and the writing prompts, and we say, this is what you do, step by step. And I've witnessed it over and over again, both watching Andrew teach and hearing from parents, this is the best writing program. We've made it so easy and made it really affordable. So any mom can teach writing to their children using our course, and we guarantee it.
To try 3 weeks of free lessons, visit IEW.com. We are back with Val, and we're talking about implementing systems and doing things in order to, we're talking about wearing all of our hats without wearing out. One of the ways we do that, of course, is to pass on responsibilities to other people, including our children, which makes the most sense. But I know so many of our listeners have really young kids. I'm thinking about my friend Amber, who has 4 little girls under the age of 6. And that's a lot. I mean, that can be very overwhelming. And so how do you, I don't know what your age ranges are when your kids were little, but with 7 kids, I imagine that there were some years where you had a bunch of little ones
Right.
in your home, and it seems so overwhelming and so
Right.
hard to then pass on responsibilities to really little kids.
Right.
Like almost like it would make more of a mess and cause more havoc by trying to get them to do things. And so, with me, my girls are 11 and 16. I can easily train them to do anything in the home,
Right.
and they can do it.
Right.
But how did you balance that with really young kids?
Yeah, I love that question. When they're little, there are still so many things they can do. One of my grown daughters has a 4-year-old and a 5-year-old boy, and they certainly have chores. The 5-year-old's job is to take out the trash, to pull it together in the kitchen, and then she ties it and he takes it out, and he feels great achievement
Right.
with such a big job, and
Yeah.
it is a big job. But what I suggest with really littles, I start with giving them a baby wipe and asking them, can you clean this? Like they need to begin to feel, I am a participant in this family. I'm a blessing to this family. I add to what happens around here. I have, we build our self-worth from who we are in Christ, of course, and also that we are participating in his whole big creation plan.
Mhm.
And we feel that even as a very little child. I have a book called When Littles Are Loud, Maximizing the Moments Without Drowning in Chaos. And I go through the day with a schedule that I make for littles, because I have found they feel a lot more contentment when they have a schedule. And so we incorporate into that some chore time. They need to feel like they're a part.
Mhm.
So even starting with obviously very safe things. Another one is putting away the silverware. I had play clothes for them that was just in a container under each bed,
Mhm.
that they were allowed to pick out their outfit for that day, the play clothes. With the clothes for out in public were, in the
Mom chose
closet,
those.
right? In the closet. But There's so much. So just identify, every day, a little time slot every
Mhm.
day that is set aside for them to also participate in making our family run smoothly
Yeah.
and experience being a blessing.
Yeah. And even cleaning up toys. I mean, little kids are, if they're capable of playing with, except for babies, but a 2-year-old is fully capable of
Oh,
putting away their
yes.
toys in the
Right.
right bin.
Yeah.
I mean, it's if you have it organized for them and just say, this is where the trucks go, this is where the
Yeah.
blocks go. They
Right.
can learn that, and they might mess it up a little bit, but that's okay.
Yeah.
But they can at least start learning the process of doing that. So, yeah.
Absolutely. It makes me think of possibly one of the most important things for homeschooling to run well is for kids to learn to listen the first time we tell them
Oh, yeah.
something. And that goodness, we've got to train that
Yes.
really, really young. I know when I had one little grandson, and I think he was maybe 18 months old, probably a little younger than that when his brother was born, because there's less than 18 months between them. So I was holding the baby, and the grandson, the other one, the toddler, was heading toward a plug in the wall. And so I said, "No, no, Jamie." And he immediately stopped and did a little whimper cry and said, "No, no." And he backed up and went to something else because his mom had been consistent
Yeah.
about that. It's very young ages can actually learn that. And you know what it's about? It's about mom being consistent with our words, and dad
Hmm.
being consistent with our words, that if we don't value our words, they will not value our words. And so we have to learn, if we're going to say something to them, then after that one time of saying it, next is action.
Hmm.
We say it, and if obedience doesn't happen, then action. And by action, I don't mean consequences or punishment necessarily. I mean, if they're crawling over to something that I say no to, then I need to get up and I need to, physically remove them from that and say, "Mama
Yeah.
says no." And as we are faithful and consistent with that, they really learn to value our words because we're valuing our words.
Mhm.
So if I want to tell my child something, but I'm too tired or there's too much going on that I wouldn't be able to implement, making sure that what I'm saying is really going to be followed through, then I just need to not say it at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so important. I never have put together the idea of teaching first time obedience with time management, because that's really what you're saying, right? Is then you're
Absolutely.
not spending your whole day repeating yourself over and over and over and over and over again. You teach them to do it the first
Absolutely.
time. And that takes time to do
Yes.
that. But it really does in the long run. It saves time in being able to do the things that we need to do, which right now what we need to do is close this podcast because we're out of time. Again,
Okay.
we will be back tomorrow. We're going to continue talking about these things. We're talking about Val's book. It's called Wearing All Your Hats Without Wearing Out. And I love this topic. I love the encouragement that you're bringing because it is so desperately needed for us moms. So thank you guys for listening and watching today. Share this with your friends. If you've not yet left a review for the podcast, please do that. Whether it's a 5-star review or a written testimonial. We love the written testimonials because those are just fun to read. We love to know how this podcast is impacting you. So please leave those. You can leave them on YouTube if you're watching through YouTube, or you can leave them through iTunes or, what's the other one? Spotify. I don't use Spotify. I use iTunes. So I'm always like, what's that other one that people use? But we would really appreciate that. Share this with your friends as well. Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Bye.
In the very beginning, I had several friends that wanted me to homeschool. And frankly, they were a reason why I didn't want to homeschool, because it looked too perfect to me. Like, I would look at families on the covers of magazines and they had matching jumpers and they were all playing an instrument. And I was thinking, I can't relate to that, right? They're growing their own wheat and grinding it into flour. And I thought, that's not me. Like, I'm going to the store and, getting Wonder Bread for my kids and trying to figure out how to use my crock pot, right? And I realized very quickly that the best thing about homeschooling wasn't the fact that we had it all together. It was the fact that we were learning to live together, the fact that we were learning to grow together and learn together. And we learned through our mistakes. I want my kids to know 2 things when they leave my house. I want them to know that I loved them. That's the first thing I want. I don't want them to look back on their years at home and wonder if I love them. I want them to know that I love them. The second thing is that I want them to know that I trusted the Lord, that I trusted God for every decision that I make. And when I make a wrong decision, which we do as parents, and when the day goes bad, and when we burn the dinner, and when we stub our toe, and when our kids push us to the end of what we think we can do, and we say the word that we never thought we'd hear come out of our mouth, or we make a wrong decision, we have an opportunity to go back and make it right.